This is the gear I used on my through hike of the Te Araroa Trail during the summer season of 2020 to 2021 here in New Zealand. For my pack, I used the Gossamer Gear Gorilla 40 litre. This pack was great, and aside from the fact that I forgot to order one with a hip belt, I got through the trail with my shoulders still intact. This pack is lightweight, well made, and with a 40 litre volume was almost a perfect size for me, although I think I could have been fine with 35 litre. It comes with a butt pad, which is primarily used as back support, and on that note, the pack feels secure on me and never tipped or dipped forward, backward or sideward. So in the future I would get a slightly smaller pack and make sure it had a hip belt. It's more important than you might think. For my shelter, I use the Top Tent Pro Trail tent. It has a weight of 690 grams and fits one person. It is a non-freestanding tent, meaning I use my trekking poles to pitch it up at either end, as well as 4 Eastern Nano stakes to hold it down. I fit my tarp tent in a 4 litre Cedar Summit dry sack, which makes for very nice and compact storage. This tent was very simple to set up after several attempts, and with slight adjustments to the guy lines can be made taut and stable for most weather conditions. Anything more serious than mild wind and rain though, and I would consider adding some more stakes to your kit. For my sleep system, I use the Nemo Cayenne 35 degree synthetic sleeping bag with an Outdoor Vital sleeping bag liner, as well as the Thermarest NeoAir X-Lite sleeping pad. The Nemo Cayenne was warm enough for the summer through hike, however I would probably opt for something warmer if I was hiking outside of summer. It is still relatively light, even with the liner added for cleanliness and protection. I fit these in an 8 litre Cedar Summit dry sack with my socks and other clothing that I decided not to wear that day. My Thermarest sleeping pad was a great comfort to have after a long day of hiking, and was very comfortable and durable during the 4.5 months. Luckily, I had no microscopic holes or punctures, and it lasted me the whole way. My cook system consisted of a Cedar Summit long-handled spork, an extremely small and lightweight BRS stove, a Snow Peak 700mm titanium pot, an MSR 4-ounce gas canister which fits snugly inside, and a Brique lighter. This system worked well for me. My only strife with it is that the BRS stove is no good in wind, meaning I was sometimes using excess gas when boiling water. Apart from that, having only ever used this setup, I'd say it fared well. It boiled water reasonably fast, and the long-handled spork meant I could get to the bottom of my pot without having to claw at the last of my food. Most importantly, it was a very minimal, compact and light system that worked for me. My clothing included a base layer of thermals. I used my Kathmandu thermal leggings for most of the trail as an alternative to sunscreen and because of personal preference, and used my top thermal and or my Arc'teryx Delta LT jacket when the weather was cool. On top of my base layer I wore my Nike running shorts and the Kathmandu button-up shirt. This kept me cool on those hot summer days, and I was able to adjust the warmth via the buttons. When wet or windy, I would wear my Under Armour jacket. This was great for cutting through wind, but when it rained hard, it soaked through the material. Next time, I would invest in a proper rain protection layer. I also wore a basic cap to keep my hair from flying everywhere, and for sun protection. With me, I brought 2 pairs of Darn Tough socks. I would alternate the pairs when one was wet or dirty, so it could air out during the day. These were great socks, but did inevitably get holes in them. I used 2 pairs of Ultra Timp 2s for the North Island before switching to the Salomon Outline GTXs. These were much tougher than the Ultras and have currently lasted me over 1,500 kilometers, whereas the Ultras fell apart after around 800 kilometers per pair, as they were more brittle, trail running shoes. In Auckland, I picked up a Patagonia hip pack, which turned out to be one of the best purchases I made while on trail. It held my phone, sunglasses, AirPods, and wallet, and made it convenient whenever I needed to take a picture or listen to some motivational tunes. For most of the North Island I used a buff, until I left it at a Trail Angel's house on accident. However, I decided they could keep it, as I found that a buff wasn't a necessity for the TA, however it could be for other through hikes. I used the Black Diamond Alpine Carbon Cork trekking poles on this hike, which were great. I questioned whether I actually needed trekking poles before setting out, but after researching the unfamiliar terrain of the Tararuas and the South Island, it made my decision clear. They helped my knees not to shatter and had a dual purpose with my tent, which satisfied my minimalism. For water purification, I used the Katadyn B-Free 1.0 Tactical. This was an incredible water filter to use on the trail. I would simply fill up the bladder from any reasonable seeming water source, and I could drink straight from it. I also carried a 1 litre reusable plastic bottle with me to fill up for some quick release thirst quenching. Some other hikers experienced blockages from their Sawyer squeezes, which seemed especially frustrating after you climb a mountain and have to drink what is basically a dripping tap. My Katadyn did naturally lose some of its flow along the way, however not enough for it to be a huge bother to me. I fit miscellaneous and general hygiene items in a small 1 litre Cedar Summit dry sack, such as Leukotape for blisters and on-the-go gear repairs, Deuce of Spades, which wasn't needed as often as you came across toilets at almost every campsite and hut, ibuprofen for those tough days, toilet paper for TPing northbounders, hand sanitizer to feel clean, toothpaste and toothbrush, nail clippers so you don't turn into a wild animal, a small Swiss Army knife that I basically only used for the scissors, headlamp, Garmin InReach Mini for safety, a 20,000 milliamp power bank which was plenty for my electronics, and an iPhone charger cable to continue my Netflix binges while surrounded by nature. These tidbits, while not necessary, made the logistics of my personal experience more efficient and enjoyable. A big part of my trip was filming it and trying my best to document it along the way. The following gear made this possible. The Sony A7 Mark III with a Sony FE 28mm f2 lens, camera charger cable, USB to wall socket, 2 Sony Z batteries, SD card to iPhone reader, USB memory card reader, the Pedco UltraPod 3 with newer quick release plate for stable shooting and positioning of the camera, the Peak Design caps clip to keep my camera in an easily accessible spot, and 2 SanDisk 256GB memory cards that I backed up onto cloud storage when in towns. For navigation, I used the Guthook app, but there is also the Te Araroa Trail app, which is free. However, I would say the Guthook app is my preference, as it has more details about checkpoints such as water sources, huts and towns, along with comments from other hikers. This was all the gear I used on my thru hike of the Te Araroa Trail. Different hikes and weather circumstances call for different gear. This is simply what I used and what worked for me in my situation. For the lightweight junkies out there, my base weight, meaning without food and water, was 6.5 kg, including my camera gear. I hope this information has helped you in making decisions for any future hikes or thru hikes that you're planning. And please remember that gear is just one part of the hiking experience, and not the most important. Enjoy nature and have fun. Thanks for watching.